In this video, I will demonstrate how we can generate a VSK in ProCalc. I will first provide a brief overview of what the VSK file format is. I will then talk about the motivations for wanting to generate a VSK in ProCalc. Next, I will outline some simple rules for generating a VSK in ProCalc. Lastly, I will present a Nexus VST and a ProCalc model and show how this can be used to generate the VSK. For reference, there is a PDF on generating a VSK available at docs.vicon.com and offers a different example than the one presented within this video. A VSK stands for Vicon Skeleton and is the same format as the VST or Vicon Skeleton template. The VST or VSK is primarily responsible for labeling markers, so this file format holds information about the relationships between markers and the underlying labeling skeleton. The main difference is that the VST has generic relationships while the VSK is subject-specific. That is, the VSK is the scaled and calibrated version of the VST. So when you calibrate your subject in Nexus, this is in essence converting your VST into a VSK. When you save your subject, the VSK gets written to your session folder and you can see the subject within your data management. The quality of a VSK is dependent either on the quality of the VST or on your subject's range of motion or ROM trial. While there are videos demonstrating how to optimize your VST and how to process a ROM trial, your subject population may make these steps very difficult. As such, generating a VSK in ProCalc may be your only way of getting an optimized labeling skeleton. In other cases, you may not like the ROM results, so this affords you more control over constructing the labeling skeleton, particularly in aligning the joint axes. As an extension of this, you may even want your labeling skeleton to match your biomechanical model so that you can generate meaningful real-time kinematic outputs. There are some simple rules for generating a VSK in ProCalc. First, this process only supports the use of 3 or 6 degree of freedom joints. If you have any 1 or 2 degree of freedom joints, please replace them with a 3 or 6 degree of freedom joint. Second, make sure that the segment names in the ProCalc model match the segment names found within the VSK in Nexus. Next, the segments in ProCalc must originate on its proximal end. Lastly, and this is unlikely to affect many users, but it is still worth noting, this workflow does not support the use of dummy segments. A dummy segment is a segment that is used only for visualization purposes. It is not something that can be added through the labeling template builder, so you're typically only going to see it from any VSK that originated from a Vicon provided VST. As an example, Plug-in Gate has dummy segments for the feet, so you can visualize these segments instead of the skeleton terminating at the ankle. So here in Nexus, I have a calibrated VSK. Expanding on the subject in the Resources pane, and then looking at the segments, I can see that this model consists of a pelvis, femur, tibia, and foot segments. We can make note of the names here too so that we can confirm them when we go to ProCalc. Expanding on the joints, I can see that I only have 3 or 6 degree of freedom joints, that is either ball or free joints. I have run a functional skeleton calibration operation as per our Nexus tutorial videos, and the green sticks outline the calculated kinematic skeleton. I have slightly modified the aesthetics of my subject here in the workspace to draw more attention to the segment axes by adjusting some properties within the Options Subjects category. I have taken a screenshot of this pose, which I will use as a reference later when we update this skeleton in ProCalc. So now jumping to ProCalc, I have already created a lower limb model here using techniques that were demonstrated in previous videos within this playlist. I found my hip joint centers using our regression equation, and I will highlight just the left side only, so I have my left hip joint center, my left knee joint center, and my left ankle joint center. I created segments with the origin on the proximal end of the femur, the tibia, and the foot. Going back to the femur for a second, you can see that the segment is defined similarly to the previous video within this playlist, but instead of the origin being at the knee joint center, it is actually at the hip joint center. When my model is complete, I will make sure to save it and then go back to the Data Management tab. Down at the bottom, I will click Update VSK. A warning will pop up to confirm you want to continue. It is important to really consider this before continuing, as it will permanently alter your VSK. After clicking Yes, Another pop-up will tell you that you will need to refresh your subject in Nexus to see the new VSK. If this operation was successful, you should also be able to see that the relative marker and segment locations have also been updated within the log, down in the bottom right. Back in Nexus, we don't see anything different initially. We'll need to right-click on the subject and select Refresh Subject from VSK. This will clear the kinematic skeleton, so to bring it back, we will need to run the kinfit from the toolbar. Bringing back the screenshot of the VSK prior to updating in ProCalc, we can see that not only is the pelvis location different, but the alignment of the axes now matches that of the biomechanical model in ProCalc. Nexus will now use this VSK to label both in live mode and in processing trials offline. If we want to preview a joint angle from the VSK, we can expand on the subject and expand on joints and then select one. So I'll select the left thigh and left tibia, which is in essence a knee joint. I'll split the screen and then go ahead and graph that joint. And this is in essence the same angle that we would get from an angle had we calculated it in ProCalc. One thing to note here is that the default angle output is in helical or angle axis representation. To change the format to an Euler angle, use the drop-down menu within the properties of the joint. This can help you match the outputs you might generate from ProCalc. Thank you for watching this video. As always, if you have any questions about your hardware or software, please do not hesitate to contact us at support@vicon.com. Please also feel free to check out the links below for additional documentation and videos.